YouTube real fast. And hey, everybody, we're going live. Give us just a minute to kind of get set up. If you're watching, I don't know how fast it works.
Really excited about this live. Really excited about it.
See, it ain't popping up yet. I know, I'm trying.
What are you doing over there?
Sitting.
Get coffee, ready to go.
Oh, I got my coffee. I figured the Air Force Cup was
Oh, yeah.
a nice touch.
Aw. My father was a flyboy. My father was in the Air Force in the Korean War.
Yeah.
So Ross, you're the first active duty guest we've had. Everybody else has been veterans, so it's kind of cool.
Gotcha. Yeah. This seems like a really cool podcast. I appreciated too learning, like, thanks for sharing, Jonathan, like the kind of the story behind 04 level, you know, kind of the name 04 level aft. So
yeah, Jay does podcasting and I do podcasting, and you know, through him getting started and us both kind of starting about the same time, he messaged me out of the blue one day and said, "Let's do one like you're a rebel and I'm a Yankee, and let's, you know, because he's in Syracuse."
Forget all the rebel and the Yank. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I don't know. Trying to avoid, you know, a rebellious mind, and it's easy to get there, and I'm trying to avoid that. And then it just morphed into, I'm gonna try to mute you, turn you down. Okay, anyway, somebody wanted this link. If you give me just a second. Anyway, so I apologize, everybody that's watching, the thousands of people that's watching later.
John's just being John. Give him a couple minutes.
I'm just looking for how to share this.
Yeah. Welcome. Come on in.
How's it going?
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Matt has arrived.
Okay, well, that worked out then.
Perfect.
We went live about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, sweet.
Thanks for swinging by.
For having me on, guys.
Yeah, and I got to get your faces in it, so we got to figure out what you got to do. Turn the camera sideways, or lean in and butt heads, or what? We want to avoid that.
There we go.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So, my name's Jonathan. Matt, I appreciate you coming on. I was reaching out to Ross. I don't know how much he explained the podcast and what we do and what this is all about, but you know, we're Navy. He and I are Navy buddies, and from 20. Well, we both got out in 2020
series. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so,
right.
so
how you doing, Matt? Jay here.
Hey,
and so I've kept this quiet, but Ross doesn't have his name tape on his uniform for a reason, because Jay, that's my little brother. Yeah.
Oh, Lunny.
That's why he knows my papa stories.
Perfect.
I had to act like it wasn't my grandfather as well.
Nice to finally see you and meet you, bud.
And
That's awesome.
You too.
That's awesome.
So let me adjust this real fast. Okay. Well, yeah, Ross is my baby brother. He turned 1, and the next day I left for boot camp.
Wow.
So it was kind of a weird deal. We didn't really get to spend a lot of the important part of his, you know, youth together, but we caught up. I came home from the Navy and moved from California to Georgia, and I took him to his first ever Braves game on his 9th birthday. And the Braves were down to the Marlins. Were down, I think, like 5 runs going into the 8th inning, and then just 1 run at a time. Small ball came back. John Smoltz came out, closed it. It was just fantastic.
Oh,
and
that's good. All right, there.
Dontrell Willis pitched for the Marlins. So that was kind of cool. I always remember that. But anyway, so today we're talking about the Space Force, and it is important for me to learn about the Space Force so that I can make fun of the Space Force. That's what we do, right?
We need ammunition, man.
And so I want to tell this story real fast, and then let's get into it. But Ross went to the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and he called me. He texted me and said, "Hey, can we talk?" And so I called him, and he said, "Hey, I'm really, really considering joining the Air Force. Will you be like offended?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will not be offended. However, I need you to know that you are just setting yourself up for like ribbing. I'm gonna rib, so like it's a lot of fun. So today I asked Ross to be on for everybody watching. I asked Ross to be on this live and explain to us the Space Force. Well, then I was like, well, we don't want to hear it from an Air Force guy. So do you know any Space Force guys? And he wrote back, he goes, absolutely, let's do this. And so I've been just chomping at the bit all day. Couldn't wait for 7:00 to get here so that we can do this. So Matt, I appreciate Matt Wood's your name.
Wood.
Looks like.
Yeah.
I went to school with a Matt Wood. That's funny.
Did you?
You're a whole lot smaller than that dude. That's a fact. That's a big dude. But so where are you from, Matt?
I'm from around Orlando, Florida, a little town called Apopka. I grew up as a Gator fan, so.
Oh my God.
Oh God, help us all.
And then,
Well, nice joining you tonight.
yeah,
Matt, thanks for coming on.
yeah, no, and then after high school, I joined the Air Force as an aircraft mechanic, and talked as much crap as I could to my dad, who was a Marine, my uncle, who was a squid, and then my cousin joined the Army, so I got talk crap to her too.
There you go. That's what we do, man. We love it.
Yeah,
Well, you come from a military family then.
I did since the Revolutionary War, as far as I know. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Your family's gone back that far, huh?
Yep.
That's
So
awesome.
how long have you been in the military?
So I joined in 2012.
Okay.
Is that when you graduated?
No, I graduated in 11 and then did the delayed enlistment program for a year, and then joined. That's when I enlisted, was 2012, and then I did a ROTC program. Got a scholarship when I was enlisted, and then planned full on for the Air Force. Of course, this was before the Space Force was a thing.
Right.
And then I worked for a space company while I was in ROTC, and Space Force came out, and I was like, oh, sweet, let's do that.
That's crazy.
So what made you decide the Air Force, brother?
Well, part of it was because I knew that if I wanted to go on airplanes, so I'm an aviation nerd, right? And if I wanted to go work on airplanes, the Air Force was going to pay me to work on airplanes. If I went to join the Army, they were going to pay me to be a soldier and then work on airplanes, right? Or helicopters. Navy was the other option, but I was like,
Because the Navy has more planes than the Air Force.
We got quite a bit.
It does, right? And the Army has more boats than the Navy, which is really crazy.
Yeah. No, and I'll give it, like, the naval aviation program is peak for sure. Like they're the ones, like, they have the Top Gun program. You guys run in jet pretty much.
Not me. I'm veteran.
So Air Force was a way to go for me. Like I wanted to do that. Plus, whenever I was looking to join the military, my dad, as a Marine, said, and forgive my language if it's not allowed on this podcast, but I'm quoting here.
Yeah.
All right,
It's a Navy podcast.
No, we can try to keep it PG-16. That's what we'd say.
PG-16, got it. So my dad said, I really would love for you to join the military, right? But don't you can dare join the Marines or the Army, right?
Yeah.
Like that's fair. I was like, I didn't plan on it anyway, but
that was our one for the show today. Okay, no more F-bombs. It
was a quote. Yeah.
So I mean, for me, it was about traditional stuff. So for you found that route, and I think it's interesting to see where you are now, making that shift into the space. I keep wanting to say Coast Guard, and I know that's not it. I don't know why my brain doing that. But anyway, you're making that shift. Was that a hard decision for you to switch from Air Force to Space Force when it became available, or was it were you like chomping at the bit the first time you heard it?
It was an easy decision for sure. And frankly, my GPA and everything wasn't amazing in college, but I also had a family and was working full time. So I applied for it, and I was like, I saw the other people that were lining up to get it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to compete with with this kind of stuff. But they took my prior experience and everything, and they were like, "Yeah, no, Space Force for sure." So I was excited about its history, right? Like, I mean, we're coming up on year 5 right now, so yeah, it's exciting.
Super soon, yeah.
So before we get too deep into the Space Force, Ross, tell us about yourself.
Yes, so of course, as you said, went to the University of Georgia. Well, from Clayton, Georgia. Go Dogs. Graduated from UGA in 2021 in May. Through the Air Force ROTC program, commissioned and graduated same day. Very memorable day, like one of the 10 days you remember in life, you know. So yeah, graduated May of 21, and then had a few months of wait before I reported to Vandenberg, which is where we are here. It's my first duty assignment. So I've been here for about 3.25 years now, and I got classified as a civil engineer officer for the Air Force. I can get more into that later, but yeah, that's kind of what brings me to this room with my friend Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So
sounds technical.
Thank you.
And most importantly, you're my little brother. That's pretty cool.
My condolences for that too, Ross.
I was thinking about introducing him as a kid that was in my youth group when I was a youth pastor, and then just like we'll just go this way. So, but so I guess if we got I got a bunch of questions. I'm trying to do too many things at once. Everybody in Raven County is going to see Matt Wood and be like, "Why is Matt Wood on the podcast?" So, question number one for me. Question number one: is Air Force its own branch, or is it a corps like the Marine Corps?
Space Force?
Yes. See, I'm going to do this all night.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I'm sorry.
Focus, John. On focus.
I'm going to write notes. Space Force and hang it on my screen.
Take a sip of your Mountain Dew, bro.
Yeah. Hold on. There you go. So,
Space
go ahead.
In the Department of the Air Force, just like the Marine Corps is Department of the Navy.
Department of the Navy. I love that.
Okay, I didn't know. I was really curious. So
I got something for Matt. Right?
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
There you go. Yes, sir. Let's go.
The end of the podcast. It is over.
Chomp chomp.
I've enjoyed the run.
That's it. I was gonna go with this one. I was gonna go with that one, but I didn't want to meet Matt alone. Okay, so now it's even 2-2.
I thought the last name was the big reveal in the podcast. I thought it was this, but now it's that.
This isn't a reveal. This is a betrayal.
I feel like a piece of me just died.
Yeah, I can tell Jay did not take our pact seriously. Anyway, so I was really curious back to it. I was really curious if it was like the Army Air Corps became the Air Force, but before it was a division, a corps of the Army, and then of course the Marines is a corps of the Navy. I didn't know if that was that way. I was really curious. That was the question I've had probably the most, and so obviously that means that the Colorado Springs is the academy, just the same way those guys are going through there the same. I was really curious about that. Are there enlisted people in the Space Force?
Yes, there are. There's cyber and space operators, and folks a lot smarter than I am, frankly. And a lot of whenever it comes to like satellite operations and things like that. I'm a mechanic that became a aerospace engineer, and
That's pretty good. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
But there are enlisted folks, even here. Like we have folks that are enlisted Space Force.
So I know that you're officers, but do you know, are they using the lateral transfer from the Air Force enlisted, or do they have their own basic training yet, or do you know?
They're identified whenever they go into basic training that they are for the Space Force, and they have Space Force uniforms and everything like that, but they get trained with Air Force.
Okay, so when someone goes into boot camp, they know they're going to go into the Space Force, but they just go through basic training with the Air Force. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very
And so another question I have, and this is probably the one I've heard telling people that we're going to do this, is it really necessary I mean, wasn't this the stuff the Air Force was already doing? Why go through the trouble of making another? Like the Marines and the Navy, so opposite of each other, and you guys are so in lockstep a lot of times. So, could the Air Force have continued doing this under the umbrella of the Air Force and not start the Space Force? So, what was the cause behind that, to your knowledge?
So, the Space Force, the move to go with the Space Force as a separate branch of the military was because of how operations were becoming worldwide, right? We needed to get a step ahead, and we needed to put more focus on space operations. And frankly, Air Force Space Command and everybody else saw each other as a separate thing. I know whenever I was a baby enlisted guy, I had no idea that we even did space stuff. So whenever they decided to make that move, it helped separate like budget and operations and doctrine. And like we still follow a lot of Air Force doctrine, but they've changed it from like Air Force instruction to Department of the Air Force instructions or Department of the Air Force manuals, things like that, to kind of cover everybody's bases. And then we have specific things for Space Force, but it allows us to operate on our own. And frankly, took a lot of lessons learned from whenever the Marine Corps became a Department of the Navy, right? That way we could figure out like how we needed to do our budget and and separate ourselves as much as we can, but still have that belonging with the Air Force.
And what's cool is it gives that division of what was the Air Force a joint chief now. So it gives them a little more clout. They have their commandant or whatever they call it. So I would imagine it would be the same thing. So it gives it a little more focus and more funds can be funneled that direction. So it's kind of, anyway.
Absolutely.
So I'll give a little bit more. He mentioned very briefly like budget. So not to get super boring on the podcast, but so for example, I know we talked about earlier, like there were various bases, and please correct me if I'm ever wrong, of course. But there were various bases that were designated as Space Force bases soon after the stand-up of the Space Force back in 2019. And with that comes along, so we receive Space Force funds, but because we're a Space Force base, it's delineated from like normal Air Force dollars. And so I think I can't recall the percentage. But anyway, it allows for delineations with that, so it can only be used for Space Force bases as opposed to traditional Air Force stuff. Additionally, so one thing to my knowledge that the Space Force lacks is like generally support functions. So of course I'm a civil engineer officer in the Air Force, so I'm an airman in support of Guardians is what we call it. So directly supporting Space Force missions on the base, but I can easily enough PCS to a different, more traditional Air Force base, which likely will happen in the coming years. And I'll kind of move away from the Space Force gig, if you will. I'm not directly supporting the Space Force at that future base.
So is there an option, being that if the Space Force picked up a civil engineering wing, you could slide that way if you so desired to do so?
Possibly, but I foresee that being, a decade or more in the future, just because of how dependent currently the Space Force is on support functions, to include logistics, force support, security forces, civil engineers, and a few others. We're just so deeply rooted in Air Force isms and Air Force ways and Air Force structure that I foresee it being quite a while. Think like support functions.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree on that. It seems like being part of this, and the Space Force is in still its like infancy here, where we're still solidifying all of the boring stuff,
right?
Like doctrine and
it seems to me like it's one exciting time.
No, well,
exciting time to be part of this, though. Seriously,
we're launching rockets here. Like that's pretty exciting, right? But like all the boring stuff does have to go into it, and sorry if I offend anybody that finds doctrine exciting, but
it's fairly exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I can't look at that hat. It's killing me. Sorry.
What'd you say?
Good. It looked good.
So I can't look at that hat anymore. It's killing me. Like,
So
Yeah,
Matt,
we talked here.
can you take us, Matt, through just for those who have no idea? Because I only learned that the Space Force existed maybe a couple years ago, honestly. So for people who don't know what it's all about, can you just give a quick breakdown of what you do every day and what it actually the Space Force does? I know you're like a part of the Air Force, but you could do that.
So the Space Force focuses a lot on satellite operations and satellite warfare, space warfare. We control the ranges. So whenever I say range, like this is the Western range. And we launch rockets and test missiles and things like that out of here. So we will support an air function like missile test. And then we also support commercial launch service providers and NASA and whoever else decides to come out here. But it's the launch ranges are unique, right? We're very small compared to the rest of the Space Force. Like with electronic warfare and like cyber warfare, satellite warfare, things like that. Those are a very big piece of this. That like a ton of people are watching, and there's different people in acquisitions and engineering that are procuring these satellites and making sure that we're on top of like the next generation, and we're staying on top of China and the great power competition here. That's a key term, by the way. I don't know if you guys have heard that. Great power competition is what everybody's talking about.
Say it again. Great. Turn to my ear too, so I can hear you.
Yeah, great power competition.
Great power competition.
Yeah,
never heard it.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I mean,
build power. I work on power lines. Does that count? No. Yeah. Right. So I know this is a really stupid question, but like. So basically what you're saying is that the Space Force is its eyes are more satellite versus radar, and it's looking down. Is there anything looking up? Is because it's space, right? We're talking Space Force. We're not talking Earth Force. We're talking space. So is it just a name, or is there a part of it that's looking at Earth but also looking into the cosmos, looking at what's coming? I'm not talking about aliens. I'm talking about like with like
that's what I was hoping you weren't getting at, buddy.
Well, I mean, like because I mean, all the asteroids and everything that's coming, like there's got to be. I'm sure all the astronomers are seeing all that, but like, is there any part of it that's that route? I'm just asking because they keep talking about aliens. I don't know.
I'm not sure about if the Space Force is tracking asteroids and things like that, but we do have eyes to the sky, right? From down here, like the Hawaii, like telescope, and they run tracking a lot. That's part of like the space warfare thing is they know exactly what's in space, how big it is, where it, like what its orbit is, how fast it's going, like every little piece that they can about everything in space. So, and then frankly, like the planetary stuff and asteroids and all of that, that's usually left to NASA and I'm sure there are other commercial companies that I don't know about that are well into that, and colleges, and then we also have people around the world in the European Space Agency and Asia as well that track all these kind of things.
It's pretty interesting because I mean it's for real. I mean that's cyber attacks are pretty heavy duty. It's a security. So it's not like someone's breaking into your bank account and stealing your money. I mean it's like it can really just destroy a country.
Yeah.
You know. So I never really thought about that. And thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it's interesting as hell.
Yeah,
Well,
flip of the switch, and you lose power across half the United States with one switch. So it's just a matter of time before they push into that. So
Wow.
it's pretty cool.
Hey,
I remember
Charlie, how
when.
you doing? Charlie came in, chimed in.
Okay. I'm not
Says it's
even
been
looking
30
at
years since you've
chat.
been up on the 04 level aft. Nice.
I didn't think about the chat side of it.
Welcome
I'm
to
not
the
even
4
looking at it.
level aft again,
Well,
buddy.
For your chat.
yeah, well, because we're live, there's people chatting too. So it's like, I forgot about that. So if y'all got any questions, if you're watching, you got any Space Force questions, throw them up there, and we can ask these two gentlemen. Obviously, obviously, if you're on this, most likely you're, a veteran, and you know that there's certain things that can't be asked. And I'm not asking them questions. I'm really curious about it. Anyway. I won't do it on live. I'll ask later. So I remember when President Trump talked about Space Force, and I remember just kind of laughing. Like, here we go, Star Trek. Here we go. And it's really neat to see that it's actually going. And it's I thought it was less than 5 years, but I guess it makes sense that it was. So is there a lot of pride in being some of the earlier guys that's actually in the Space Force? I mean, do you find yourself like, I'm in the first, leg of it for
Absolutely.
all the other guys?
That was part of the reason I wanted to come into the Space Force, because it's like we're running through history right now. Like this is the very beginning. Like you think of all the guys that were starting up the Space Force in 1947, right after World War II, and
Right.
You're like, man, like you think about those people, and then like you get to be a part of this, even though I never thought that would be an option. To start up another branch of the military.
Yeah. Or a guy that Ross and I went to church with and grew up with, named Wiley Boykin. He was in the Army Air Corps and went into work one day and was in the Air Force. So it's kind of cool to meet that guy, know and understand that story. And he was such a cool dude.
I guess that's another, that's a nice segue into something that I was kind of thinking about this and thinking about today. Like, so to our earlier discussion, Jonathan, we were talking about like we call them AFSCs. It's like an MOS for the Army. I forget what you called it in the Navy, but
Rate.
Your rate. So for example, mine is 32 Echo, Civil Engineer Officer specifically. Is yours 1362?
No, it's 62. Yep.
62, which is Developmental Engineer. But then so there's 13 Sierra, which is a space operator.
Mm-hmm.
And so of course the Air Force, those were organic to the Air Force for years and years, right? And my understanding is when the Space Force was established in 2019, do you know if all those billets went to the Space Force?
No, they did not.
Not all of them?
Well, I'm sorry. Yes.
All the
so
13
for
Sierras?
the 13 Sierras and the 15 Sierras, is that what it is for cyber? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I'm
Space operators.
not as well versed as I'd like you to be on that. But yeah, it's but yeah, there are some that went specifically to Air Force, like active duty, like everybody that was cyber and cyber, space ops, and there was another one.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but they all went Air Space Force. And they had their own like specific set and training.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's hard to imagine all of a sudden you have to have E9s and the guys who've spent their entire career in the Air Force, or I mean, I would assume it's only Air Force. Was there any kind of acquisition from other branches, especially in the officer ranks? Did y'all get any Navy guys and stuff?
Yeah.
So I mean, it'd be really strange to be like a E8 in the Air Force, and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, we need you to come over here and help to start this new thing, and you retire as a Space Force, Master Sergeant or whatever. It'd be really weird to make that. But like you said, maybe those people were excited to do it.
Now, the guys that came over from other branches, did they just volunteer to do this, or were they recruited?
They volunteered. It's all on a volunteer basis. Like they were asking for people to come from different branches, and there was an application process, and they might have been requested. Like it might have been a recruiting mechanism where they were like, "Hey, like I think you would be really good for this."
Kind of like a signing bonus kind of thing.
I don't know if they did a signing bonus or not.
I'm not sure.
I wish.
They're officers. They make enough money. They don't need a sign-on bonus.
I'm talking about the enlisted guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well yeah, maybe yeah, I don't know. But that's kind of cool. So like, do you have any idea on the numbers? Like, what's obviously it's going to be small. It's only 5 years old. What's the manpower that do you know?
I think last time I heard we were, and it wasn't anywhere I read. I think it was a conversation that I had with somebody. So I don't know how credible it is either, but I think we're sitting at around 11,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 2 aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. That's less than, I think our battle group was like 28,000, 29,000 people. So for a battle group, but of course it's a much older system too. So
Yeah.
that's pretty neat. So it's almost, is there any like back it up. It's almost is it almost completely cyber? Is it almost all computers? Or is there a lot of hands-on equipment? Like, is there? I mean, are you guys dealing with the rocket launching machines, or is that all NASA, or is it Elon Musk, or what? I don't know. Like, is there technicians actually? That's a great question. Are there technicians that are actually working on things? That's probably the best way of putting that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I am sure that there are technicians that are out there actually putting hands on like fixing things. But as far as the rockets go, all of our rockets are acquired through other means. So usually, they're looking at the Space Force as a, how they put it, as a service branch where we are acquiring things, right? And we're having people build things for us or launch things for us. And we're like, hey, we want this capability and we want you to do it for us, basically. Because frankly, commercial means they move a lot faster. It's hard we can't really get investors in the DoD, you know?
Right.
So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean, it happens everywhere else.
Yeah.
All the M4s are not made by the Army, so.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
You can't really, and this is being worked on by, I don't know who, but a lot of different companies are trying to figure out how to do maintenance on satellites and how you do that and like how you keep satellites up in the sky longer, so they don't have the shelf life that they once did.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you can answer this. I don't know if it's top secret or not, but I'm going to take a stab at it, brother. Living on the wild side here. Say there is a cyber attack, okay, and shit's hitting the fan. Sorry, I swore too. Us Florida boys,
I was too.
horrible mouths. Say we did have a cyber attack and everything's going downhill. What's the first thing that the Space Force would do in that situation? Obviously, they'd be the first one to know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who the first one to know would be. I think it likely would, right? But that decision comes from way higher than here, right? Like if
Above
something's
your pay grade.
I'm sure there's a plan, but it's probably like I'm not ready to that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Stuff.
Okay.
So I'm not sure like about that at all. So,
we got Charlie asking a question.
lasers are
nickname the minion R2D2. Nickname the minion. I just thought that was funny, so I'd throw it up there. Well, you think there's some laser mutants in space, and I hate it, but that's where the mind is. That's where we all go. We're all thinking Star Trek, man, and we know it's not. I know it's not. That's where my brain goes every time. So I was even trying to figure out how to get some Star Trek theme music in this, but I also don't want to be disrespectful at the same time because I do appreciate what you do. If it was Ross, it wouldn't matter.
It is exciting. It's exciting though, man, because that's what I thought of too. We ever since we were kids, Star Trek was like, whoa. Star Wars was like, whoa. Imagine doing all that stuff. So when you hear Space Force, you're like, yep, it's happening in my life. It's happening.
Right.
Back in the day, I remember in like high school time frame for me. And even whenever I first joined, I remember seeing commercials back when people still watched cable, that were, it was like a Air Force commercial, and it was like some like science fiction thing, and like they were moving all through. And the Army does them now too, but at the end they would be like, "It's not science fiction; it's what we do every day." Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
But it is becoming more and more like science fiction, right? And,
or it's less fiction and more reality.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, science reality. That's true. But so the thing is with like munitions in space and like specifically, there's something, and I highly recommend you go look it up. It's a really cool concept. It's called a God Rod. And
Like the God Rod?
huh?
God, God Rod?
Yeah.
That
And
sounds-
it's basically, it was a thought a long time ago where you could put a couple tungsten rods up on a satellite in space and then just drop them somewhere, like wherever you want, and the impact energy would be like that of a nuke without the fallout, the radiation.
Whoa.
Right? But we have this thing called space. Yeah. That kind of forces us. We signed agreements with Russia and a few other people.
to never use them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can't use them, right? Like we can't just put nukes in space to just wait up there, right? But the problem is we signed this agreement, this space law, with countries that had the ability to go to space or were close to the ability to go to space. And at this point, when we signed this, China was mostly farmers, right? Still, like they were not into the technology. China grew very fast, right? And so we don't have that like formal agreement with them like we do other countries.
Yeah.
But we like the lasers and stuff, you know, like there's things, and I find all this stuff out from Google, by the way, or like
I just googled God Rod.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
so like
That,
just
and it says these Air Force rods from God can hit
Yeah.
with the force of a nuclear weapon.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
You know, the
amazing what they
Lasers too.
go ahead. Say again.
systems.
You know, the Air Force uses lasers too.
Set
Oh,
your phasers on stun, gentlemen.
Is that when you're doing a PowerPoint and you're like, well, if you spread the laser on the screen, like if you look at last year's model and blah blah blah.
No, if you want a good read, it's actually a pretty cool system. Look up Radbo, RADBO.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know it?
Mhm.
You know the Radbo? Oh man, let's see if I can come up with it on the spot. It's basically for ordnance on airfield or on airfields. It's a method that we're testing to see if it's feasible to clear ordnance on an airfield with pretty interesting videos and
Yeah.
pretty interesting system. So
There used to be a show on Spike TV called Weapons of the Future, or Future Weapons, I think it's called.
Yeah.
That was something that was brought up like that, and that's how long the acquisition has been going for that.
dang.
But yeah, and then
Recovery of airbase denied by ordnance.
Yeah, recovery of airbase denied by ordnance.
Yeah.
That's another.
And remember the acronym thing for those people, because I don't remember all my acronyms from the Navy, and if you drop many of them, please remember to define them. But that's pretty. I mean, I'm telling you, like it's amazing. I don't know if you ever seen what a rail gun is.
Yeah.
Like they came up with a rail gun in like 20 years ago. They were testing that stuff when I was in Dahlgren, Virginia in the late 90s, you know, like and it's just insane. Like it's just thinking amazing what they can come up with. So a rod from God makes sense. That's pretty amazing to think that that's even
crazy.
feasible. And to be able to land it exactly where you want to, that's the even crazier part. They told us the story, and again, you know how the military can be, that they needed to hit a target during the first Gulf War, and they needed to hit a target, but they couldn't hit it because of the buildings around it. And they sent in a SEAL team or Force Recon. They sent in a team, and the team basically blew all the doors off a building and so that the missile could fly down a hallway and hit the building that they needed it to. So it actually entered into one building and flew down the hall and then went into the building they were trying to hit and it exploded. Now, I don't know if that really happened, but I've seen from what I can read, remember reading about Tomahawk missiles, which are extremely old. Those are pretty stinking amazing. And the stuff the Air Force and the Navy have now, the Raptors and the 35s and all that stuff is like crazy compared to what I was around, and that was nothing, So
it's amazing to me that Tomahawks now are considered old.
yeah.
That's nuts.
That was the job, and so
Ship anymore?
say again.
Do they even have harpoons on board ship anymore?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Or chaff?
I'm imagining they have chaff. Well, they might have got to use it a couple weeks ago. The Red Sea, there was an attack against a battle group. I saw that. But anyway, so is there any questions that we're missing? That's what I guess that's so great. I went through my questions pretty fast. So is there anything that, like, if somebody was looking at this wanting to join Space Force and you're trying to talk them into it, like, it shouldn't be that hard, hey, let's do this. But
yeah, I can say that the aspect of like coming over from Air Force to Space Force is they have left a lot more room to do whatever we need to do to get it done. Almost cursed, but we have a lot more room to just get it done, and a lot of room for innovation and like no idea is a dumb idea, and we're really pushing for whatever we can do to get to the future, right? And there's not a lot of the old ways that are holding us back anymore. So and like I said, that was part of the reason that we made the switch to the Space Force in the first place. So we could grow as fast as.
How far technology has come from when John and I were in to now, you guys, is unbelievable. It just boggles my mind. Where do you guys see the Air Force and the Space Force, say, 20 years from now? Because it's been about 20 years since Jonathan and I have been in. So where do you guys see it going?
It's a really good question.
top secret.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't answer that.
That's top secret information.
In 20 years. I tell you what, I guarantee you, even Staff Sergeant Matt Wood would not have been able to guess that where we are right now, even with the technology and stuff, is what we would have had. Like it's not like it seemed unfeasible, right? And then I've had conversations. I went to a conference a couple months ago, and all the leaders from Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop, all the big ones, right? RTX,
right.
Were there, and they were like, yeah, we're working on a couple things for this, and we can't share, but guaranteed it's like the next thing, right? And you're like, oh, really now? Like, and I think it was in reference to AI and stuff. But that
AI stuff is unreal, man.
Yeah,
and on TikTok, and it's an AI person. It looks exactly like him. It's insane.
I didn't realize y'all could read the private chat. That makes sense, though. Good thing I didn't say this guy's an idiot. I don't believe that, but it's a good thing I didn't say it.
That's all right. I had to get close because I didn't bring my reading glasses anyway.
And so it's interesting. Okay, so I worked on the missile guidance radar system, right? It's a fire control system, part of the Aegis Weapon Center, and it was ancient in '99 when I got there. It was old. It was really old, and they're still using it. And so, if it ain't broke, we always made the joke in the Navy. The motto was, if it ain't broke, fix it until it is. But when it comes to the weapon systems, we still used cards that had the 80s, Star Wars, like, or not Star Wars, the 80s, nuclear radiation protection that had the coating on it to help. It had all the little stuff around it and stuff. And I would imagine it was designed that way. They're going to keep it that way until those are completely out of system. But
Well,
even they still work though.
Yeah, even the controls that we had in CIC, my combat and my weapon systems, my WCC and COC, they were like from the 70s.
Acronyms. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You saw that radar just going around. Beep, beep,
Oh yeah. Okay.
beep.
That was actually what my wife did. That was her job, fixing that stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Sit there and watch that for hours, just twitching,
Sleeping, trying not to sleep, trying to get caught sleeping. But so I mean, and in the advancements that has happened and that I've watched from YouTube, from what you're allowed to see, for what James will tell you, what it's insane watching it. And so you can only imagine what Space Force or Air Force or the Navy or whoever's next. Who knows what kind of division comes up next? But there's no telling what can happen and what can come from it. So, and of course they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you until it's over,
right?
Until it's hitting you. You're like, what's this hitting us? But I'm just kind of curious. It's a rare deal. We made the joke. We had Veterans Day at church a couple weeks ago, or Veterans Day, and then at church we were doing this little thing, and we were all standing around in the back, and it was really cool because we had the Coast Guard, Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marine veterans all standing in the back just talking and telling stories and stuff. And when to have a coastie is a rare thing. There's not that many of them either. And so I made the comment like, man, it's cool to have everybody here. And one guy said, well, there's no Space Force here. And I'm like, yeah, but are there any veterans yet? Do they have any people who've gotten out yet?
Right.
And so I was thinking it was a little younger than 5. I wasn't expecting it to be that much, but I imagine the people who are laterally transferring are probably going to stick it out because, like you say, you enjoy it so much and it's kind of a pride thing. So hopefully you guys are experiencing a better run of it than some people. So.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, there's always the first term airmen or guardians that are just like that. This isn't for me. Same thing with officers. I know plenty of officers.
Oh yeah,
Nah, this I'm done.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not like they're talking crap about the Air Force or Space Force thing. They're just kind of like, yeah, this isn't what I expected, and I'm gonna.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's anybody, any job you take. It's not always the recruiters will lie to you like smooth.
Oh yeah. But, shuttle.
Let's go. So, are you looking at making a career out of this? Is that?
I'd like to.
Is that?
Yeah. I think that that's the goal, but I've heard a lot. If you plan to stay in, prepare for getting out, and if you planning to get out, then prepare to stay in. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ain't that the truth? Well, you've been in for 12 years now, anyway, right?
So my time in ROTC didn't count, so I think I'm at like 8.5. So
right.
Yeah.
So Ross, our parents are watching, and they want to know if you're going to make a career of this too. So I'm just asking.
Oh, are they? Are they?
They are watching. I sent them a link. That's what I was doing at the beginning of it.
What do they want me to say?
I'm coming home.
Every parent wants to hear, man.
Yeah, right. So, well, it's interesting because it's just such a different thing, like
it is.
It's so cool. So do you guys have y'all developed an animosity? Is there nicknames that we should be aware of for the Space Force, Ross, or that we don't know?
They probably are still in that honeymoon stage. Honeymoon each other stage.
Yeah.
It's not like the Navy and the Marines that have been at each other.
Yeah, we've been doing this forever. Like 200 years has been.
Yeah.
We're still on the drawing board for that. But it's coming. It's coming for sure. No, not aware of, actually.
I mean, the Air Force, I feel like they got a lame one. Like Chair Force? Come on, man.
That's
you can do better than that,
right?
right?
I mean, we're in chairs.
We are. Yeah, we are.
I'm going to say it's not far stretch, a lot of you guys are in chairs all the time.
Yeah.
But I understand why it's there, but also I understand there's a lot of people who don't deserve that moniker. But you know what? not all Navy people are homosexuals either, and I have to listen to that all the time. So I had to listen. I still have to listen to that, and I'm not even in anymore. So
Only on Tuesdays.
so that's pretty cool though. So I'm thinking I'm trying to come up with some more stuff. But
The Army, the ground pounders. You have Devil Dogs for the Marines. Navy, we have our own little words.
Whiz.
The
Air Force is Flyboys.
that we can't say on the
Air Force is Flyboys. What's the Space Force? Spaceys?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
I
that
don't
sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, but I
Spaceys.
or, like if there's something that comes across Facebook or even like LinkedIn and stuff, people will be like, "I don't see their tinfoil hats on." Like, what's
In a little cone.
I think if like the
cover.
chief of space operations, right? The like 4-star general that runs the Space Force came to like a conference or a meeting at the White House or Pentagon with a tinfoil hat. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just googled nickname for members of the Space Force, and it said Guardians. So it's not even playing along. Like we're trying to go.
It's pretty cool, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
Fun when you have a nickname.
Some rejected nicknames. Astro Gators. We don't want to talk about Gators. We're done with that one. So I saw one today, though, by the way. I said, "Oh, come on, Jay. Lee, like killing me."
Jeez.
You saw a gator today?
I did, yeah. I see them pretty regular. I was down on the river.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah. I'm
you
in
seen
Louisiana, dude. They are.
Well, all right.
What now, Jay?
Georgia. I was like, Georgia.
Yeah.
Well, there's gators in Georgia, too.
The galaxy.
See any pythons?
Cool, though.
No, that's Florida.
No.
The pythons is South Florida.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's I think I counted one time. I looked it up. There was like 14 states, 15 states that have alligators. So,
I mean, I know they go all the way up to North Carolina.
Virginia,
And even-
technically Virginia even considers it like on the coast. They have them. So
Well, we
know
have
they-
them up
they
here
like-
in New York City. There's
And
some
the
in New York
sewers.
City sewer. They're everywhere.
I would be afraid to be in a sewer in New York City. I would definitely be afraid to run into an alligator. I'd probably be more afraid to run into the rat.
No, yeah, exactly.
You
You're
know,
more afraid of running into a rat.
Yeah, the rats.
Here we go. We got a comment. Got another comment. The Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Nice to know, Charlie.
That's very nice.
Who is this guy? He's the only one commenting tonight. so
Charlie Vischer.
I don't remember him.
I'd like to
Do I know
who he
him?
is.
He's from the Lake Champlain.
Like,
It says.
We just have, gold star for Charlie.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up. You were talking about the technology earlier, and there was, I think it was today or yesterday, they Google AI announced that they have a working chip, and I
Really?
think the number it said something that would take like a supercomputer, like it was like 100 billion, 100 trillion years. Took this chip 5 minutes.
Right. I thought we was about to lose him. Here we
We
go. Let's
lost
try it again.
Hey,
There we go. Okay, hey,
So I heard you say quantum chip. And that's about all we heard.
okay. I was
I
saying,
thought y'all wait. I thought you guys had like Space Force, Air Force, like internet. Do it again. Come on, come back. And they got mad at me for making fun of this. That'll make him mad. That's funny. You just got where you just a lids. You just have like a lids in your to your left. Like
Maybe.
coming back.
I collect hats like I collect T-shirts, man.
I'd love to collect hats, but they're just getting so expensive. Here we go. Let's try it again.
see, there we go.
there we are.
All right.
Well, like I was saying, you guys are supposed to be the Space Force Air Force base. You should have better internet than this.
Okay, I got a question for both of you. This is serious, and I hope you guys don't get disconnected again before you answer this. So, what's up with the Chinese balloons? I know you guys will know what's up with that stuff.
You know, I can say that I'm very proud.
Don't lie.
No, I was gonna say I am very proud that as America we took one out with an F-22. Like that is screams America.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
What were they made of? Do you know?
No, I know, like, it's something that they've used before. Other countries
Oh,
have
yeah.
used it too. It's just like, it looks basically like a little satellite that they hook on a weather balloon, and it goes up to
Wow.
a certain altitude, and then the way the airstream works, China just kind of sent it up, and then the airstream took it over the United States.
And it's so small, the radar probably can't pick it up if it's high enough. And I'm surprised they even found one.
Yeah,
That's really surprising.
yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. So I was, what was I about to ask before y'all jumped off and back on? I don't remember.
We're talking about AI chips.
Oh,
But-
yeah. So you was talking about supercomputer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so what Google AI said was that this chip could solve this problem that would normally take a supercomputer like 100 billion or 100 trillion years. This little chip solved it in like 5 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I think that if it's supposed to take 150 million years for a supercomputer to figure it out, that maybe we weren't supposed to know the answer to it.
Yeah,
Like,
man. That's scary.
The space
Yeah.
it takes NSA longer to figure it out.
There's a guy that had I was at church talking to the guy, and he was talking about the Neuralink. Have you heard about that much? And he was talking about that Neuralink and how the guys, like the soldiers that are coming back that are, messed up, they're getting that Neuralink, and they're having to stop. They're not allowed to play like video games because their thought process moves them through the machine faster than people with their fingers hitting it. And so they're like, you can't play video games with the Neuralink. And he's talking about he really wants to get it because he found out that it cures tinnitus, and that's the only reason he wants it is to cure tinnitus. And I'm like, well, that's something to think about. So,
maybe we should tell Dad about it.
yeah, right. Nobody ever warned me about tinnitus. They just said, hey, if you listen that loud, you're gonna go deaf. But nobody said, hey, you're gonna have this ear piercing ring. It's never gonna stop. We said
that's
told me that.
normal?
I didn't know about it until I started having it. I thought I had a tumor. It's not a tumor. I thought I had something wrong with me. Like I didn't know. All of a sudden it was doing it, and I asked questions. And everybody's younger than me. They didn't know. And then the one day I finally found somebody that said, "Yeah, that sounds like tinnitus." And so I started looking it up, or tinnitus, as some people say. I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, apparently it's a very common thing amongst military people." So didn't realize
So
that.
Charlie, who's chiming in, thanks for chiming in too, Charlie. But he said he installed the Mars station. Do you know what the Mars station is, John?
No, I did not. He was from 91 to 94, R division. R division was engineer, so ER9. I have no idea what Mars is. Nope. Charlie, there he goes. He's writing.
Let us know what the Mars station is.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and it's anyway, it's pretty amazing to think about where technology has come. It's still really cool to think that when they shoot torpedoes, they still have a cable that's attached to the back of the torpedo, and that I didn't ever think about that when I was in. Well, until I was in and I was learning about it, I'm like, well, that makes no sense. And then I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That it's got a cable attached to the torpedo and like tell it where to go, and then it loses it and hits, and then of course now they got Space Forces. It's nuts. What's he saying here? It says,
Cherry affiliated radio station. Sends messages back and forth to family while you're on their way. Well, that's pretty cool.
yeah, right. So you're talking about all that. In 1999, I got to the ship. In January 2000, we left for our first deployment, and they had just got email. We could email during the deployment. And I was sitting there thinking about something had happened to a guy that was he's an ET on our ship. Something had happened. It was minor, but it happened. And he was able to, he got on like Yahoo chat, and he talked to his wife, and his wife talked about it, talked to his wife talked about it, blah, 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 done. Right. It was over. They had it figured out. And if that would have been in the 80s, it would have taken them weeks to correspond back and forth to figure this little problem out. And they were able to do it pretty fast. So it was pretty neat. Like pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
So is that a butter bar? So that means you're a 01?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So when you picking up Captain there, when do I get to brag about Captain Lunsford? When's it happening?
June 24th.
June 24th.
Yeah.
Hey, last year Lunsford won Mr. Olympia, which is cool. a guy named Derek Lunsford, and then another Lunsford that goes under a weird name. Wrote that song "Richmond, North of Richmond." That redheaded dude. His name's Chris Lunsford, but he goes
Is it
by.
really?
Yeah. Well, Oliver Anthony was his grandfather, and that was just the name of his YouTube channel. And when it took off, everybody's like calling him Oliver Anthony. He's like, okay, I'll just leave it that way, and the people leave me alone. And then they figured it out. So, anyway, it's a good year for Lunsfords, and as soon as Ross can,
I'm still
Ross
flipping out
pick up
about that
Captain.
computer.
Say again.
I'm still flipping out about that computer, man. That's crazy.
Yeah,
What if it becomes alive?
yeah. We have Starlink going on. Like,
We're gonna have my robot.
You ever seen Superman 3?
what now?
You ever seen
What's
Superman
that?
3?
Superman 3? Is that
Yeah.
the one with Richard Pryor?
Yes. He helped
been a long
build a computer, and it was so smart that it became alive and started killing people
Right.
at the end.
It's called Terminator. They just made another Terminator movie, is all that was. But, well, I don't want to keep you guys. I know y'all got to get back at it. And
Is there any questions for us, guys? Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
A couple of crusty Navy sailors?
Terminator will be back.
I don't think I have anything nice to ask. I think.
Okay, there's Spacey.
Well,
Hey, John.
well, we're good. Yeah, go ahead.
I've got one for you, Jonathan. Have you shared with Jay who I met in Kuwait?
No, I don't know if I did or not.
Would
I
Jay,
may have.
would Jay recognize this person?
No. Jay
Okay.
Jay went to C school. We went to the same A school. Jay actually knew Christina in Chicago, and then Jay's C school was in San Diego. Okay. And then I went to Darwin, Virginia, and that's where I met Christina, or got to know her and all that. So Jay, there was a guy that was he was a instructor, tech rep, worked on the Aegis platform in Dogger. And he wasn't. He was there as a E6 or whatever chief. I don't know. And he come in the class one day and he said, "Lunsford." And I turned around and he goes, "Come with me." And I'm like, "Oh no, what I do this time?" And then he opened his jacket up and it said Lunsford on his jacket. And I'm like, "Oh wow, there's a Lunsford." That was like the first Lunsford I ever met. That wasn't related to me.
Well,
And
it's not really a common name, right?
No. Well, I mean, not really. And so anyway, I went to his house a couple times and ate lunch with him or met his family when they were all little kids and stuff. And anyway, so say la vie, move on to San Diego. And it wasn't long that when Facebook come around, he and I become Facebook friends. You know how that is. And because there was a lot of the Aegis world that everybody's tied together. But anyway, so fast forward, Ross texted me out of the blue one day and he's in Kuwait. And he said, "Guess who I met?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's met the same dude. But he's retired and he is over there as a civilian. And there's Jamie.
Oh my God.
And he saw Ross's name tape and said, "Hey, start talking to him." And he's asking him where he was from, and he said he was from Georgia. He said, "I was in the Navy with a guy from Georgia," and he said, "Is his name Jonathan?" And he goes, "That's my brother." But you would never know that Ross is from Georgia. We've made fun of him his entire life because he has no accent whatsoever.
I noticed that when we first started talking.
Yeah,
he didn't sound like
it doesn't make sense. Like everybody in the family has an accent. My like everybody, and maybe Jan not as much, but
I think she does.
Yeah, but way more than you. But Katie, our sister Katie, is just Southern Belle with attitude.
Yep.
Hope she ain't watching. I sent this to her too. Anyway, love you, Katie. So it's pretty cool. Like, what's the chance? But here's the thing, though. What are the chances
in Kuwait?
What are the chances of two guys meeting the same person, two different branches, 24 years apart?
With the same last name and not related, and it's not common.
Right. I mean, for him to meet us both is what's to me is nuts.
Wow. So. Yeah. Well, it was a really cool moment. I couldn't be more happy that happened, and got to eat several meals with him and hung out. Got some
probably hung out with him more than I did. Like really,
great pictures. So
well, that's pretty cool. I'm excited that you guys are enjoying what you're doing. I'm glad to know that there's people out there who are enjoying being active in the military. I see from my perspective, I am extraordinarily grateful for my 6 years in the Navy. I wouldn't
Me
have done
too.
any. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I got out. I'm glad I did. If I would, I don't want to change anything I did. But there's a part of me that sees what's going on in the military from my perspective. Uh, uh,
Yes, sir.
and you don't want this guy. Don't get him fired up. Like,
Never mind.
anyway,
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, ignore Brian Delheimer. All right, ignore him.
he anyhow, I'm extraordinarily apprehensive of any of my children joining the military, and I'm glad to know that there's people who are enjoying that are glad they're there and are still willing to do it. So it makes me feel better. I'm excited about the future. Hopefully we try to stay off politics here, but hopefully things turns around and goes good in the future, and you guys have a better setup, and hope you guys get more BAH than you did before.
Oh,
Yeah, it's coming up in a few days. Actually, we get the BAH.
I would love to know what the pay chart looks like now.
Oh, you
Oh
don't want
gosh.
Anyway,
compared to the 90s. Yeah, early
yeah.
2000s.
No, I will say,
well-
I will say, Jonathan, to your point, like, I don't know, I run across, especially with the engineers, like, really across the board though. Like, of course, we're still an all volunteer force, to my knowledge. Like, we're still all volunteers. You run across just a ton of really good people who are just honest and care about their country. It doesn't really, I guess I learned this early on. It doesn't really necessarily matter why you serve. It matters that you serve honorably. But it's just like icing on the cake if you serve because you love your country and its principles and its morals and its values and the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's just an added bonus, you know. And you do get a lot of people even still like that. So I'm
Yeah.
proud to say that I'm a leader in that organization. You know.
Yeah. I'm glad to know you're there. I'm glad you're doing it. Both of y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Me too.
Well, we're gonna get going here. Jay's old man. He's got to go to bed.
And make sure you go to bed in that order.
Hey, there you go. To infinity and beyond. He's got to have. Well, if he wears that orange hat to bed, he's gonna have nightmares.
It's like your school
Brian.
too, though, you know? Like
Hey, so Ross, make sure to tell. Well, so Jay was one of. There was 5 of us on the smoke deck that day that made a decision to root for each other's teams. And
Yes.
so we always root for each other's teams. It's Georgia. I almost said Florida. No, Georgia, Syracuse, which is Jay's team. That's where he's from. It's Georgia, Syracuse, Arizona State, Iowa, and Texas A&M. And we always root for each other's teams.
Yep.
And so he should not be wearing that hat because he's made a vow with me. So anyway.
I kept the vow. I just didn't want our guests to be alone. You know what I mean?
I don't care. That's okay. No. Hey, I really appreciate you guys doing what you do. Thank you for your service. Thank you for continuing it.
Yes, sir.
And even Dahlheimer said here, thanks for your service. You know, Dahlheimer was we met him on the ship. He actually did a little bit of time in the Air Force before he joined the Navy, which is kind of cool. So
yeah.
Real quick, who you got? Army, Navy?
Maybe.
Is that who you root for? Or do you
My
care?
man.
Yeah, I prefer Navy.
Hey, let's go Army. Why not?
Okay, good night, guys. It was nice meeting you guys.
Hey,
See you later.
thank you guys for your service. and For
Yeah, thank
having
you.
us on here. It was a pleasure for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Come
a
back
lot
on
of,
if you can, guys, too.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely.
We would.
Hey, thanks again.
I will say too, like, thanks, Matt, for. I mean, I texted him literally this morning. I was like, hey, I know it's last minute. Like, you think you could hop on? And so I
Yeah.
appreciate you like being flexible and hopping on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this is not professional at all. This is the kind of stuff we talked about on Smoke Deck. Nonsense. So that's what we do.
Okay.
Hey, but Jay, hold on a second, guys. I really appreciate you guys being a part of it, and I hope you guys have a good holiday season.
Thank you
Christmas.
as well.
Whatnot.
Thank you. Christmas.
Merry Christmas, brothers. Take care.
Thank
We'll
Stay
see
safe.
Well, I just wanted to hop them off real fast so that we can go on and say Merry Christmas to everybody. This is going to be our last broadcast until January. We are just going to take the time, which is going to be so,
Merry Christmas and
spend time with your families.
absolutely. Listen, dude, that was amazing.
It was a lot of fun. I
It was
enjoyed that.
amazing. I mean, it's funny how Ross takes care of the blue sky and Matt takes care of the black sky.
Like,
You know?
yeah.
Isn't that cool? You know,
I like that. That'll work.
sky,
That God Rod thing was a crazy to read
Insane.
about.
absolutely insane. And Brian Bellheimer, I love you.
Yep.
Um,
Brian, we got to get together and do that chat sometime. We can do it on here if you need to. So, but anyway, so Merry Christmas to 04 Level Laugh. Thank you for all that you do, for supporting us and watching. Share this. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and if whichever you're on, follow us on the other one. Share it. Let everybody know about it. In the future, in the next year, we're going to be doing lives and recordings, and we have a lot of ideas about what we can do, but we just need any ideas that you have as well, because some of our ideas are silly. So if you guys have something important that we'll jump on it, we'll get to it, we'll supersede our silly stuff. So if you have any ideas, let us know. Emails 04levelaft@gmail.com, and you follow us on, like I said, on Facebook. We can correspond there as well.
Charlie, thank you for staying on the whole time.
Yes,
Bravo
absolutely.
Zulu, thank you so much, brother.
Bravo Zulu. It's so cool to have my little brother on tonight. That's so cool. Like,
I mean,
I
he's
was
better
surprised.
looking.
Yeah, he is better looking. He is.
He
And that's
better
because he's younger.
Sorry, bro.
Because he's younger. He ain't gained all the weight yet. Yeah.
That'll happen once you hit 35.
He's got a different mom, so we got a different look. But he looks just like my dad. I look at him, I'm like, oh, it's like my dad right there, but it's so kind of funny. But anyway, so it's pretty cool to get to have both of them on and do that. So but anyway, you got to go to bed. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And we'll see you guys in January. Yes. At some point.
And following seas. See you next year.
Yep. Thank you.